Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animation not made by the mouse. I'm your host, Octaviano, and today I'm talking about a movie that just came out fairly recently. In fact, as of this recording, it's just been a week. Some of you are probably thinking like, okay, this came out way later than it was supposed to, but yeah, there's reasons for that. But whatever, regardless of it, I'm doing it now. This is an episode on the new Transformers animated feature, Transformers 1. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you're listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to the channel, feel free to comment, and ring the bell for notifications. Also, if you're on Spotify or just any other podcast site, follow this show on those platforms. When we think of Transformers, we think of a lot of things. For a good decade or so, a lot of people just thought about the Michael Bay movies. Now, of course, they were aware of the cartoons, but yeah, the Michael Bay movies did dominate for some time there, and I have mixed feelings. I'm not the biggest fan of those movies, but at the same time, I can't deny that the effects are really good. Go back to that 2007 movie, they still hold up. The way they were color graded looks great. The action is often really good. And there are aspects to the stories that really work. Characters can be fun, but characters can also be racist in those. There's so much action to a point that some of it is kind of incomprehensible and kind of nauseating at times, and the stories are kind of dumb. Despite having some deeper themes every now and then, I still think about how in the fourth movie, Age of Extinction, we get introduced to Kelsey Grammer, who's this government official who's working with some evil Transformers to essentially do manufactured Transformers. Because they're like, okay, we don't trust the real Transformers, but if we create them and have them work for the government, those are the ones we trust, which is quite a theme. And then on top of all that, we also get what I feel is one of the best lines I've ever heard in a movie, where they're essentially talking about racism or anything like that, where Kelsey Grammer tells Mark Wahlberg, who is the good guy human in that movie, it's not about good or bad, it's about us and them. The reason why that line stands out so much is that I feel like so much of media always has this thing where it's like, okay, the racist individual is going to be just, thinking that the other people are just bad, and it's just a matter of teaching them that there are good in them. This one, it's just like, no, flat out, like, look, I don't even care if there are good ones of them. I just don't want them, which I feel like it's really mature compared to a lot of stuff, especially the mainstream stuff that we get. So I gotta give him points for that, honestly. I know it sounds like I'm really basic right now, but, really think about it. How many times have you seen racism tackled in a way where they just go that blunt for a lot of mainstream stuff? Most of the time, it's really just, hey, as long as they learn that there's good ones, that's okay, which, kind of a weird thing to say. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the new movie. Regardless of what people want to say, this wouldn't exist without that. Much like that wouldn't exist without the original show, which is what this is going back towards. Not just in designs, but in terms of tone, style, and there's just a lot of references. I mean, there's references to even the animated movie, the first one, which this is the first animated Transformers movie since that one. So, again, all pretty cool stuff. And to further show that it goes all the way back, it, of course, tells the story of how Megatron and Optimus became enemies. And, for something that sounds so plain, so boring, it's pretty great. Honestly, it's one of the best origin, prequels, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever seen, because even though there's a lot of moments in this where you just feel like, okay, this is like the moment that we obviously saw coming, where the character was going to do this or that, and we know that this was going to be the thing. This is one where I felt like, yeah, of course we saw that coming, but the movie is so well at telling its story and so good at creating emotion that it doesn't matter if we already know that Megatron is going to be evil. when we see them, because at the start of it, of course, they're called D16, which is Megatron, and Orion Pax, who is Optimus Prime. For as much as it would seem like it would be obvious what was going to happen, and to be fair, it was obvious what was going to happen, I still ended up feeling surprised by just how much I was invested and shocked by the things playing out. I was like, wow, there's no going back for this character anymore, is there? D16 is content with it, and he's fully embraced living as this miner, whereas Orion Pax wants to know more. He wants to know what's going on. All the Transformers that live in this planet worship the last remaining Prime Transformer, which is Sentinel Prime, who is not only at war, but also looking for what is known as the Matrix of Leadership that will bring back life to Cybertron and have it flowing with Energon. Pretty simple stuff, but what makes it really good is just seeing how far the story goes and showcasing that. And this is kind of a spoiler, but realistically, this is an origin story, so most Transformers fans will already know this. It's all BS. Surprise, surprise, this movie, of course, has deeper themes. It's a sci-fi movie, and look, if you've paid attention to any of my Transformers talk from any of the various videos that I've done, this franchise, as shallow as it may be, does have deeper ideas, and I don't know, it just goes places. And I feel like this is the first one of these movies that is baked into it. Like, it feels like it's really intended to have these ideas, whereas some of the other ones felt like it was kind of accidental, or if they did have it, they weren't really that interested in exploring it. This one, it feels like they both intended it and are all committed to exploring it. Like, hey, look, it's revealed that Sentinel Prime took the cogs of these Transformers so that they could stop transforming, making them slaves. The reveal that Sentinel Prime was doing this all just to basically strike a deal with the enemy to put himself on top. As a result, once this is revealed, this is the moment that D16 starts to feel like, okay, yeah, this is not what I've been told. This is a complete betrayal, and it pretty much starts his transformation into Megatron. Like, he just feels blind hatred, wants revenge. Brian Terry Henry, who plays D16 and Megatron, sells it perfectly. Just hearing that transformation in his voice, is incredible. Honestly, there's a lot of great voice acting in this movie. Chris Hemsworth is the voice of Optimus, and at first a lot of people did have their issues with him, especially in the trailer, and I'll get to that trailer in a bit. Incredible performance, because you know, much like with Terry Henry, you can actually hear the change in his voice going from just like the optimistic young Orion Pax to having a much deeper and more heroic leadership, like, you know, voice as Optimus. You also get some other people. Scarlett Johansson is fine as Alita. She's essentially a female Transformer that goes along for the ride. You have B, eventually Bumblebee. He's the comedic relief of the movie, voiced by Keegan Michael Key. Fun stuff, but it really is the two leads that carried this for the most part. It's just incredible stuff. And, you know, before I go even further, I do have to give a shout out to Steve Buscemi, who comes in as Starscream. Small role, but it's like, look, this is about as perfect as you're going to get when it comes to a celebrity voice for Starscream. It just, when I saw the name Steve Buscemi being in this movie, my first thought, like, oh, he'd be great as Starscream, and lo and behold, he's Starscream. Love that stuff. But yeah, the trailers for this movie, probably not the best thing. I mean, I'll say this much, I'm not gonna say, okay, look, I prefer to watch a good trailer over a bad trailer any day. That being said, it's kind of hard to nail down what is a good trailer versus a bad trailer. The thing that a lot of people don't understand is that when it comes to trailers, the whole point is to sell audiences on the movie. And while it's easy to say, okay, well, the trailer just has to look good, you have to consider that, okay, but good in what way? Did it actually attract audiences to watch it, or did it fail to get attention? And sometimes that's just a matter of the company not putting out the trailer enough for people to see, so some people aren't even aware of its existence. But in this movie's case, it's like, okay, the tone in the trailer is much more upbeat, it's much more comedic, it's much more childish than what is actually in the movie, which is, uh, it's a family friendly film, but it's very mature. It's very violent. There's language. It's talking about adult themes. It's definitely something where it's like, yeah, this is not just your standard family fare movie. As a result, I do feel like it might have turned off some people from watching it because they think it's gonna be like this very dumb kid friendly movie that just has nothing going for it underneath the surface. But who knows? I mean, as I'm speaking on the first week, it's just done okay. It opened to 25 million worldwide. It's about 40 million, and the movie is with the movie has a $75 million budget, so it's not even the worst thing ever. But it is noticeable. I do feel like it should have been a much bigger movie. Again, I don't know if it's the trailer that killed it, or the timing, or the lack of marketing. I will say this much: the funny thing is with this movie is that I only ever saw the trailer with movies that were aimed at older audiences rather than kid audiences, which was one of my main takeaways when I started looking at it and started thinking, like, maybe the trailer is not the best representation of this movie if they're constantly aiming for adult audiences in terms of who would be interested in this. But I don't know. I will say again, who knows? Maybe it does its job well enough and it does get it going. I don't really know because, for example, granted, this is a movie that was a bigger hit. I thought the Beetlejuice trailers were awful. They just focus on fan service and nostalgia and whatnot, and yet the movie is not that entirely. Like, it does have its fan service and whatnot, but it is filled with new stuff in there, and it's a lot more fun than the trailers suggested. So I would say those are bad trailers, but again, it got its audience, so can it really be bad if it does its job? Regardless, I just feel that this is one incredible movie. It is a perfect example of what a franchise film should be in terms of it's exploring ideas that isn't commonly seen in movies, especially of this type, for families and stuff like that. It just feels like stuff that is considered really risky for a lot of Hollywood movies, especially in this day and age. And as a result, it feels like the only reason why this was able to get away with it is just because it is a franchise film and they felt like, okay, well, we can maybe get some sales off of this. And on top of that, since it is an origin story, Megatron was always going to be Megatron. We can get away with having him go through this arc where he sees the world crumble around him, and as a result, he hardens, he becomes more cruel and whatnot, and we don't have to do this BS story where, he maybe reels back and then we can wait until the sequel to have another moment be the moment that truly turns it into Megatron. He's just gonna have like baby steps so that it feels natural and safer for parents, really, if we're being honest. No, they go all in on it. It's understandable why he becomes Megatron. It really is the performance of the movie. It is just devastating to watch. And yeah, like Orion Pax Optimus is the main character, but I feel like most people are going to be coming out of this movie just feeling like, yeah, Megatron's whole arc is the best part of the movie. It's the part that we get the most invested on, and it's the part that is, it just feels like, yeah, this should be some generic fan servicey, waste of space kind of thing, where it's just like, okay, well, they did this because that's how the story is supposed to go. But no, it feels fresh, it feels necessary in this movie, it feels impactful, and that to me is just impressive. And it just feels like something like, look, we're testing this out to see if it can work here and see whether or not people will be turned away by this, which I feel most people are fully enjoying it. And if Hollywood were smart, they'd take those notes and use it to be like, okay, we can try more risky things with some other project, maybe projects that aren't connected to some big franchise. Unfortunately, the reality is that they won't do that, and they'll continue doing this thing where it's like, okay, we'll do these sequels, prequels, whatever. We might occasionally dip our toes into some heavier themes that we wouldn't do because it's considered risky. with these just because it's the safe thing, but we'll only do it with these just because it's the safe thing. We don't want to do it with something that's a little more risky, even though by doing it with this, it proves that there is an audience for it, and there is something out there for people to really, that people are hungry for, but we're not, we weren't sure of just because we're afraid to try new things. I don't know, it sucks, but that to me is like the ideal way of going about franchise stuff. Like, not just to be like, okay, we can fund new ideas, which they should do that, but they don't. But beyond that, it should be used as a way to maybe test out, like, not necessarily like, okay, we have this idea here, and now let's recreate that idea in this other thing, but like tackle subjects, like, okay, in this case, like with the body autonomy stuff, it's like, okay, so we can do a story where we see people lose their body autonomy. Let's actually tackle that subject in something else. Like, let's try doing it with another family film. Not saying go full on with abortion, but you can try that. And try that kind of stuff, where it's like, okay, we can explore these subjects, maybe not in the same way, definitely not in the same way, but, we can approach these ideas and be confident that because this franchise film was able to get away with it, and people liked it, we can maybe put some more confidence into the one that, we weren't too sure of, that's new, and see if hopefully that means that it can do well. I personally feel that that's much better than just relying on these movies to just make money for you, to fund new ideas, but really you're just funding more sequels. Whatever. Even if I say this is the way it should be, they probably won't listen. That's the sad thing about Hollywood. In any case, Transformers 1 is an incredible movie that just talks about a lot of these themes. It's directed by Josh Cooley, who also did Toy Story 4. I enjoyed Toy Story 4, but I'm not gonna lie, this is the much better movie. The animation in it is incredible. It's from ILM, the Industrial Light of Magic, who previously did Ultraman Rising. Have yet seen it. I gotta see it. And Rango, so it's really detailed. It's there's a lot of shine to these robots, and I just love how they keep the G1 inspired the designs. I don't know, there's a lot of personality to the animation and to the characters. It's just great. It's just the kind of movie that a few years ago would have felt impossible to see from this studio. Well, not from this studio, but from this franchise. And I'm glad it's here. I feel like someday I'm gonna have to revisit this, just like I did with the Transformers movie, to flesh out more, since this is just me going off of just barely watching it. For the most part, like I said, it's a really great movie. You should go out and watch it if it's still available in theaters. It probably won't be by the time this is out, but regardless of it, if you can watch it in the theaters, watch it. If not, just watch the movie. It's, trust me, one of the best animated films of the year. As far as I'm concerned, one of the best movies of the year, regardless. But then again, people will say that I don't watch enough movies. I don't know. With all that out of the way, I just want to say thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again next time.
Hey, Darkwing! Don't! My finger can transform. Guess which one?
Thanks for stopping by. Go ahead and follow this channel. Subscribe, like, and comment. Ring the bell for notifications. Go ahead and also follow my podcast. And give some love to my Patreon account while you're at it. It's www.patreon.com/saicams. Again, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you come back for more in the future.